Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Once upon a time, there lived a man named Ebenezer Scrooge. As our story begins, it was Christmas Eve, and Mr. Scrooge was sitting at work counting his money. He refused to light a fire in the office, even though it was very cold. His employee, Bob, was shivering at his desk. Bob wanted to go home to his family, but Scrooge said they had to work. Scrooge didn't care that it was Christmas Eve. He didn't have any family, and he wasn't about to care about anyone else's family. Well, that's not completely true. Scrooge did have family, a nephew named Fred. In fact, Fred was coming through the door at that very moment. Merry Christmas, Uncle Scrooge! Scrooge only glared at Fred. What do you want? I'm busy counting my money. My dear uncle, I want to invite you to come eat Christmas dinner with us. Fred looked very sad. Ever since my mother died, you're my only relative on her side. Shoosh! Scrooge looked angry. Don't mention my sister. Fred sighed. Please come to Christmas dinner, Uncle. No, said Scrooge. Go away. There was nothing for it. Poor Fred had to leave. Now, you see, Scrooge's business made plenty of money, but he didn't pay his employees very much. Bob, the employee who was shivering at his desk, worked hard every day, but he barely had enough money to buy food for his family, and he didn't have enough money to take his child to the doctor. It was getting quite late in the evening when Bob stood up and walked over to Mr. Scrooge's desk. Well, sir, here's my work for the day. I guess I'm leaving now, Bob said. Scrooge didn't look at Bob. Sir, I want to ask you if I can take off tomorrow to spend time with my children. It's Christmas and Mr. Scrooge looked at Bob sharply. Absolutely not. Be here first thing in the morning, or I'll fire you. Bob's shoulders slumped. He looked so sad. He really wanted to spend Christmas Day with his kids. But if he got fired, then they would all be in real trouble. Okay, sir. I'll be here bright and early, Christmas morning. Lazy employees, said Scrooge as Bob was going out the door. Always complaining that they need more money, but then they want to take a day off? Ridiculous! And Scrooge picked up his many bags of money and carried them home to his big, empty house. Scrooge's old friend. Scrooge was sitting in his living room counting money when he heard a strange sound. Brrrr, came the sound. Brrrr. And then a ghost appeared in front of Mr. Scrooge. "What's this nonsense?" said Scrooge. "I am a ghost. I am your old friend, Marley. I died 7 years ago." "You look pretty good for a dead guy," said Scrooge. "I think you're not real." The ghost of Marley, who had been Scrooge's only friend in life, folded his arms in front of his chest. "Wow, you haven't changed a bit. And that's not great. If you don't change your ways, things are not going to go well for you after you die." Scrooge brushed the ghost aside. "I don't care. I'm not dying anytime soon, and I have enough money to buy—" "To buy what?" shouted Marley's ghost. Uh, Scrooge thought for a minute. "Well, anyway, I don't know, but you're not real, so I don't care." The ghost looked sad. "Okay, old friend," he said. "Well, I have to tell you, you will be visited by 3 ghosts tonight. You had better listen to them. If you don't, you'll end up worse off than me." "Whatever," replied Scrooge, and he went to sleep. The Ghost of Christmas Past. At 11 o'clock, Scrooge felt a tickle under his nose. "Ugh!" he grunted and pushed something away from his face and rolled over. Then he felt another something tickle his ear. He waved his hand around over his head. "Go away, mosquito!" Scrooge grumbled. Then he felt yet another something tickle his chin. He reached out and grabbed a hand. Scrooge sat straight up in bed. "What is happening?" he yelled as he jumped up and turned on the lights. In front of him stood a strange figure with white hair, wearing all white. The ghost looked like a little child, but also like an old man. Scrooge just sat there with his mouth wide open in shock. "Hi, I'm the ghost of Christmas past," said the ghost. "The ghost of Christmas long past, like everyone's past?" asked Scrooge. "No, dummy, your past," replied the ghost, and it reached out and grabbed him with a strong hand. Suddenly, they were walking along a country road in the snow. They were at the school Scrooge had attended when he was a little boy. All the other children were happily playing as their parents picked them up to go home for the holidays, but young Ebenezer Scrooge was sitting alone in the window, feeling sad. No one was going to pick him up. He would be alone for the holidays. "I remember this day," said Scrooge. "I remember really wishing I could go home and play with my sister. She was always really nice to me." Scrooge smiled just a little. "But she's dead now, just like my mother and father, so I have no one." "That's not completely true now, is it?" asked the ghost. "You're right. I still have Fred, my nephew, replied Scrooge. Remember that, said the ghost. And then Scrooge was back in bed. Wow, that was a strange dream, Scrooge said to himself, and he rolled over and went back to sleep. The Ghost of Christmas Present. At midnight, Scrooge awoke to the sound of a party happening right there in his bedroom. He sat bolt upright in bed. He didn't even need to turn the lights on this time. There was, in fact, a party happening right in front of him. Dozens of ghostly figures were dancing and eating and having a grand old time. The ghost, having the best time, looked like a big, jolly giant with holly and mistletoe in his hair. Who are you? Asked Scrooge, stunned. I'm the ghost of Christmas present. Come with me. I've got things to show you. The giant took Scrooge by the arm, and suddenly they were standing in front of Bob's house, looking in the window. Why are we standing in front of my employee's house? This is weird, said Scrooge. Look carefully, said the giant. Inside, Bob's family was eating Christmas dinner. They were cheerful and happy. They didn't have the best food or the best presents, but it was clear that they loved each other. The youngest boy stood up, and it was obvious that he was very sick. He needed a crutch to walk. Why doesn't Bob take the boy to the doctor? And why doesn't he buy better food if the kid is sick? Asked Scrooge. Do you know how much going to the doctor would cost? Or how much food costs? What do you pay Bob anyway? Challenged the giant. Oh, Scrooge replied, his cheeks becoming red. He knew he didn't pay Bob enough money to really take care of his family. What's the boy's name? They call him Tiny Tim, said the giant. Is his sickness very bad? Asked Scrooge. He will be dead soon if he doesn't get to a doctor quickly, shrugged the giant. Well, so long, Tiny Tim. Enjoy your Christmas. It will be your last. Oh, but your dad has to go to work tomorrow, so I guess just enjoy dinner tonight. The giant looked at Scrooge pointedly. Scrooge felt ashamed. He put his face in his hands. This is awful. What can I do? The giant looked down at Scrooge. I bet you can figure that out. And suddenly, Scrooge was back in bed. It was hard to get back to sleep at that point, but eventually, Scrooge drifted off. The Ghost of Christmas Future. No sooner had he fallen asleep, but Scrooge was awoken again. This time, a dark ghost was standing over his bed. The ghost looked like a skeleton wearing a black cloak. Oh no, said Scrooge. You must be the ghost of Christmas future. Am am I dead? The ghost didn't say anything as it reached out and grabbed Scrooge's arm with its bony fingers. Together, Scrooge and the ghost watched a lot of people walking past them on the street. They were all happy. One woman said, "I'm so glad that greedy old man is dead. Everyone hated him so much." A man walking beside her said, "Yes, you know, we all stole things from his house and business after he died. We sold everything and took his money. We shared it among ourselves. Now we can buy food and go to the doctor." "Yes," another man said, "but it's too late for Tiny Tim." And all three people hung their heads in sadness. Scrooge looked at the ghost of Christmas future. "How horrible that these people are happy that someone has died. How horrible that they robbed him after he was dead. Who was this man?" The ghost didn't say anything, but it pointed at the headstone of a fresh grave. The headstone read, "Ebenezer Scrooge." Scrooge woke up then. He was crying. "Wow," he thought, "I have abandoned my family and treated other people poorly. I'm so greedy that my own employee's son is dying because I have made his father so poor. And people around town hate me because I'm so stingy. I don't want to die alone and hated. I need to change my ways." And that he did. Scrooge gathered up all his bags of money and he bought a big Christmas dinner for Bob's family. Then he gave Bob the day off and some money to take care of Tiny Tim. After that, he went to visit his nephew, Fred. They had a wonderful Christmas dinner. Scrooge gave money to a lot of charities, and he became a very generous person. After a while, everyone loved him, and in the end, when he did finally pass away, everyone was sad that he was gone. He was well loved and well remembered because he learned his lesson from the Christmas ghosts. Love your friends and family well, and be generous with all that you have. The end.